The infirmary on the starship Asterion was quiet except for the faint hum of the life support vents and the steady rhythm of the bioscanners. Captain Elias Ward worked under the soft blue glow of the medbay lights, his gloved hands moving with slow precision. The alien princess lay unconscious on the treatment bed, her skin a deep, burnished red that shimmered faintly under the sterile lamps. A crown of thin silver rested on her brow, glinting with embedded crystals that pulsed to the beat of her weakened heart. She had been struck by a plasma blast that tore through her armor during the skirmish above the ice moon of Thyras. Elias had fought to get her aboard alive, and now he was fighting to keep her that way. Her physiology was unlike any patient he'd ever treated. The scanner displayed layers of vascular energy rather than blood, lines of light spiraling through her chest like constellations. He adjusted the stabilizer, careful not to disturb the glowing filaments that seemed to breathe under her skin. A faint sound came from behind him, the low, amused voice of her nurse. The alien woman's skin was pale gray, her eyes dark and knowing beneath a nurse's white cap that seemed both ceremonial and practical. "Too gentle for a warrior," she murmured, her voice carrying an accent that turned every word into music. Elias didn't look up. "She's not just another soldier," he replied. "She's your princess, and she's bleeding energy like a ruptured reactor." The nurse's smile deepened. "And yet you touch her as if she were made of glass." He ignored the comment, focusing instead on the wound, an ugly burn where plasma had scorched through layers of protective armor. Underneath, her skin pulsed faintly, alive with internal light. Human training said to cauterize, to seal, to stabilize, but none of that applied here. Her body didn't heal through flesh and blood. It flowed through resonance, a balance of frequencies. He calibrated the emitter wand, letting its harmonic field adjust to her heart rate. Each adjustment was a note in a song only her biology understood. Slowly, the energy stabilized. Her breathing evened out, the rise and fall of her chest shallow but steady. He exhaled quietly, realizing only then that his hands trembled. The nurse tilted her head. "Strange. How much care you give to what you do not understand." Elias set the wand aside. "Understanding isn't always a prerequisite for doing the right thing." Her gaze softened. "That is a human answer." He wiped sweat from his brow, glancing at her. "And what would an Alarethian answer be?" She folded her long fingers over her lap. "An Alarethian would say the right thing is a matter of harmony, not mercy. Balance above compassion." Elias gave a dry smile. "Balance doesn't keep people alive on the battlefield." "No," she replied softly, "but it keeps them from becoming monsters." The medbay's overhead light dimmed briefly as the ship adjusted orbit. Beyond the sealed viewport, the gas giant Thyras loomed, bands of violet and white swirling in endless storm. Elias glanced toward the window, its view surreal and hypnotic. "We've got a day before command arrives," he said quietly. "That's how long she has to wake up and tell her side before they decide whether this was an accident or an act of treason." The nurse's dark eyes gleamed. "You saved her life, Captain. That will not be easily forgotten." He frowned. "In my experience, it's the things that shouldn't be forgotten that usually are." A faint sound pulled his attention back to the princess. She stirred, a soft exhale escaping her lips. Her eyes opened, molten gold with an inner shimmer, alien yet hauntingly human in the way they searched the room. Her gaze fixed on him. "You're not Alarethian," she said, her voice weak but precise. "No," Elias answered, stepping closer. "Human, Captain Elias Ward. You're aboard my ship." She blinked slowly, the movement graceful even in exhaustion. "Then I owe you my life." "You owe me nothing," he said. "Just don't die. It would ruin my reputation with royalty." The nurse made a quiet sound that might have been amusement. The princess's lips curved faintly. "You jest in the presence of the wounded." Elias gave a small shrug. "Humans joke when we're afraid." "Are you afraid of me, Captain?" Her tone carried no arrogance, only curiosity. "A little," he admitted. "Mostly of whatever it is that tried to kill you." Her expression shifted, shadowed by memory. They were not trying. They intended to. Her hand twitched, and the crown on her head flickered with blue light. The nurse stepped forward quickly, murmuring something in their native tongue. Elias watched as the energy calmed. The princess closed her eyes again, her voice a whisper. They will come for me. And for you. Then she went still. Elias looked at the nurse. What did she mean? The alien woman's expression was unreadable. The war that killed our sons was not finished, Captain. Your rescue may have reignited it. A low alarm blinked on the console behind him, reading residual energy signatures on the ship's hull. Pursuers. He felt the tightness in his chest return. You mean they tracked her here? The nurse's calm gaze met his. I mean they tracked you. He turned to the console, pulling up the external scan. Dozens of faint blips flickered at the edge of the sensor range, small, fast, and silent. Too coordinated to be pirates. Evasive maneuvers. He ordered into the comm. The ship trembled as the engines flared to life. Alarms deepened in tone, red light washing over the medbay walls. The nurse didn't move. If they board us, you'll die defending her? She asked quietly. Elias checked the charge on his sidearm, his jaw tightening. I've done dumber things for worse people. The nurse studied him for a long moment, then reached into her robe and drew a small crystalline shard that glowed softly between her fingers. Then you will need this, she said, pressing it into his palm. The energy within it pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. What is it? He asked. A key, she said, to her protection or her destruction, depending on who holds it. Before he could reply, the ship shuddered violently. The overhead lights flickered, and the console flashed red warnings. They've found us, he muttered. The nurse's eyes glowed faintly. Then the test begins. Elias moved to the intercom. All hands, battle stations. The voice that came back was taut with fear. Captain, multiple hostiles approaching. Unknown design. He holstered his weapon, looking back once at the unconscious princess. Her pulse shimmered faintly beneath her skin, a rhythm of fragile light. The nurse stood beside her, serene amidst the chaos. Protect her, Captain Ward, she said. If she dies, so does what remains of our future. Elias nodded once, the shard still glowing in his hand. Outside, the black void lit up with streaks of pursuing fire, and the Asterion dove into the storm. The stars spun into ribbons of light as the Asterion plunged through the turbulence of the gas giant's upper atmosphere. The ship groaned under the pressure, hull plating flexing as plasma trails licked its flanks. Elias gripped the console in the command deck, his knuckles white beneath the gloves. The inertial dampeners struggled to compensate for the dive. Hold her steady, he barked. The helmsman's voice came through gritted teeth. Trying, sir. But the storm's chewing our stabilizers. Outside, violet lightning coiled through the clouds, flashes of color illuminating silhouettes. Sleek alien vessels closing in, their hulls shaped like blades. Elias recognized the formation instinctively. Alarethian hunters, he muttered. And they're not here to talk. Down in the medbay, the nurse worked silently, adjusting the princess's vitals as the ship shuddered. She didn't seem afraid, her movements were fluid, practiced. The princess still lay motionless, her golden eyes half closed, lips parting slightly with each fragile breath. Energy flickered faintly under her skin like distant lightning. When the ship tilted sharply, Elias's voice came over the intercom. Nurse? Status on your patient? The answer came calm and cold. She is alive, for now. But if the core within her destabilizes, you will not have a ship left to save. Elias swore under his breath. Then keep her breathing. I'll handle the rest. He turned to his tactical officer. Deploy decoy drones. Make them think we're jumping. The officer hesitated. Sir, those things will fry our stealth systems if we light them this close to the storm. Do it, Elias snapped. We don't outrun them, we die. The officer obeyed. A moment later, the void filled with flares of false signatures. The pursuing ships scattered briefly, their sensors confused by the electromagnetic chaos. Elias seized the moment. Angle portside, vector 243. Take us deeper. The ship banked violently, slipping into the densest part of the gas giant's cloud layer. For a heartbeat, the universe narrowed to thunder and pressure. Plasma crackled around them, bright enough to turn night into day. Inside the medbay, the nurse's expression remained unchanging. She adjusted the monitors as a low hum began to rise from the princess's chest. The sound was harmonic, resonant, unnatural. The crown on her head flickered with cymbals. The nurse whispered something in her language, her hands trembling for the first time. The princess's eyes opened, bright gold now flaring with inner light. She inhaled sharply, and the entire ship's power grid surged. Elias felt it immediately. The lights flickered, then stabilized with eerie calm. "Engineering?" he demanded. "Report." Static answered. Then a voice crackled through. "Captain, all systems just spiked. They're overperforming. Reactor output's up by 30%. Elias frowned. "How's that possible?" He didn't get an answer, only the nurse's voice cutting in on the intercom. "She's awake." His chest tightened. He sprinted from the bridge, ignoring the shouting crew behind him. The corridors glowed faintly as he passed, each panel flickering to life with golden circuitry. The ship itself seemed to pulse in rhythm with the princess's heartbeat. He reached the medbay to find her sitting upright on the bed, the nurse standing beside her. The princess's gaze turned to him immediately. "Your ship listens to me," she said softly. "It hears my call." Elias stopped just inside the doorway, catching his breath. What did you do?" "I saved you," she replied. "Or tried to. My resonance synchronized with your vessel. It responds to me now as to a conductor." Her tone was calm, but her eyes betrayed strain. "I cannot hold it long." The nurse stepped closer, voice quiet. "Every second she guides the ship, she burns herself. Captain, if you value her life, land." Elias shook his head. "We land, we die. They'll find us in minutes." The princess looked toward the viewport, where flashes of light danced amid the clouds. "They are not my enemies," she said almost to herself. "They are my father's guardians. They believe I am dead." Her words hit him like a shockwave. "Then why are they firing on you?" "Because they think I am corrupted," she said. "Tainted by humans." The nurse's expression didn't change, but her silence spoke volumes. Elias stepped forward. "Then talk to them. Tell them the truth." The princess's gaze met his. "They will not listen. To them, my survival is blasphemy." The ship lurched again as another impact struck the outer hull. Sparks rained from a sealing conduit. The nurse moved quickly, steadying the princess as her strength faltered. "Her energy is draining," she said. Elias grabbed the console. "We can't hold this course forever. Options." The nurse hesitated, then nodded toward the crystal shard still clipped to his belt. "The key I gave you, it connects to her resonance. If you place it within the central reactor core, it will bind her energy to the ship permanently." "Bind?" he repeated. "You mean she becomes part of it?" "Yes," the nurse said. "She will live but not as flesh. The ship will become her body." Elias stared at the shard. It glowed faintly, pulsing with her heartbeat. "That's not a choice," he muttered. The princess spoke weakly. "It's my choice." She reached out, her fingers trembling, but her gaze steady. "If the ship dies, so does everyone aboard. Let me save them." Elias knelt beside her. "You don't have to do this." Her lips curved faintly. "Too gentle for a warrior," she whispered, echoing her nurse's earlier words. He felt the ache in his chest tighten. "You saved me once," she continued. "Let me return it." The nurse watched silently, her eyes glistening. "Captain," she said softly, "there are no other paths." Outside, the hunters descended through the storm, weapons glowing. The Asterions' shields flared and began to buckle. The ship screamed as energy tore through its flanks. Elias made his decision. He rose, clutching the shard. "If she's going down, I'm going with her." He ran toward the reactor core chamber, the deck trembling underfoot. The nurse's voice echoed after him. Then may your compassion be stronger than her fire. The core chamber was alive with heat and color. Energy arcs leapt between conduits, the entire room vibrating with the sound of the storm outside. Elias approached the central core, a sphere of spinning plasma encased in magnetic rings. Pulsed erratically, overloading. He hesitated only a moment before pressing the shard into the access port. The reaction was instant. Light exploded outward, flooding the chamber. The hum turned into a roar that vibrated through the ship's bones. On the medbay table, the princess gasped, her body arching as golden veins of light raced across her skin. The nurse clutched her hand, whispering ancient words. The princess's eyes glowed brighter, blinding. Elias. Her voice echoed through the ship, not from her mouth but through the walls, through the circuits. Don't be afraid. The ship shuddered once, and then, everything stilled. Outside, the Alarethian fleet halted mid-fire. Their sensors went dark. The storm clouds parted in a slow spiral, revealing the Asterion rising from the depths, wreathed in gold light. The enemy ships drifted back, confused, their instruments failing to lock. A voice, clear and resonant, filled the airwaves, hers. Stand down, it said, calm but unyielding. I am alive, and I command the vessel that bears my will. In the cockpit, Elias stood in awe as the systems responded like extensions of her voice. The Asterion's weapons powered down. Energy radiated outward in a halo, forming a barrier that shimmered like a sunrise. The Alarethian ships turned slowly, uncertain, and then retreated into the storm's depths. Silence returned. Elias lowered his weapon, chest rising and falling. Princess, he said softly. Her voice came through the calm, gentle and distant. Here, Captain, and everywhere. He closed his eyes, feeling the hum beneath his feet, her heartbeat now part of the ship's rhythm. The nurse entered the bridge, her face unreadable. She saved you all, she said. Elias turned toward her. At what cost? The nurse's eyes softened. The same price humans have always paid for mercy, sacrifice. The Asterion drifted quietly through the calm that followed, the storm fading behind them, and somewhere within its golden circuits, the alien princess breathed still, guiding the ship that carried both her fate and his. The Asterion drifted through the outer layers of the Thyra's storm, light rippling across her hull like molten gold. The silence that followed the retreat of the Alarethian ships was unnerving, almost holy. Every console glowed with residual warmth, the ship alive with the heartbeat of its new consciousness. Elias stood on the bridge, staring at the swirling clouds outside, feeling the subtle vibration beneath his boots, the pulse of her presence. He spoke softly into the calm. Princess, can you hear me? The answer came immediately, her voice a whisper through every panel, every light. Always. It wasn't merely sound. It was resonance, a vibration in his bones. You're part of the ship now, he said quietly. No, she replied. The ship is part of me. He exhaled slowly, glancing at the crew. They worked quietly, unsettled by the voice that filled the air. Ishan, his second officer, whispered, Sir, she's interfacing with our entire network. Life support, navigation, even communications. Elias nodded. Let her. She saved us. The least we can do is trust her. Ishan frowned. With respect, Captain, trust doesn't come easy when the ship's AI sounds like a goddess. Elias gave a dry smile. Then pray she's a merciful one. He turned toward the forward view. The storm was breaking, sunlight piercing the gas clouds in radiant columns. Yet his unease grew. If the Alarethian fleet had retreated, it wasn't out of defeat. It was strategy. Down in the medbay, the nurse sat beside the now empty bed. The medical monitors hummed softly, still recording the faint trace of a heartbeat that no longer had a body. She folded her hands in silence, her gaze distant. When the door hissed open, Elias entered, his expression grim. She's stable, he said, though the words sounded hollow. The nurse looked up. You speak of her as if she were still flesh. He hesitated. She's still her. The nurse's lips curved in a sad smile. That is what you wish to believe. You humans cling to continuity, even when everything changes. You think she's gone? He asked. Not gone, the nurse said softly. Transcended, which, for our kind, is a slower kind of death. Before he could respond, the ship's intercom crackled. Captain, Lysera's voice said, calm but edged with urgency. Incoming vessels. Mass signatures approaching from high orbit. Elias stiffened. Alarethian? No, she said. Human. He frowned. Command. No transponder codes, she replied. But their power signatures are old pre-accord technology. His eyes widened. That's impossible. He turned and sprinted for the bridge, the nurse following silently. When they arrived, the crew was already in motion. On the screen, the distant shapes of 3 ships appeared, blocky and familiar archaic human warcraft models decommissioned decades ago. Ishan looked stunned. How are they even running? Elias narrowed his eyes. They're not. Look at the heat signatures, they're cold. Lysera's voice softened. They are not piloted by the living. The view magnified. The ships drifted slowly, their hulls marked with deep scars and symbols. As they turned, one vessel's name came into view. Dauntless. Elias's chest tightened. That's impossible. The Dauntless had been his first command lost during the Titan Belt uprising. He had watched it burn, had seen the bodies of his crew float into the void. Yet here it was, silent and pristine. They're echoes, Lysera said. The core energy you unleashed created resonance beyond the living. Memories of what was drawn back into form. Ishan swallowed. You mean ghosts? Elias shook his head. No. Remnants. The largest of the phantom ships pulsed faintly, a low harmonic that vibrated through the bridge. Lysera's voice turned solemn. They are drawn to the signal I carry, the memory of humanity's persistence. But not all memory is kind. The phantom fleet began to move, slow but deliberate. Their weapons bays opened. They're locking on us, Ishan shouted. Elias clenched his fists. Lysera, can you disable them? No, she said. They are reflections, not machines. They obey emotion, not logic. The nurse stepped forward. Then we must change their memory. Elias glanced at her. How? Show them what humanity became, she said. Show them what they died for. Elias looked to Lysera. Can we project? Yes, she answered. But I will need your memories to guide the transmission. Take them, he said. The ship dimmed, and light flared across the bridge. Images bled into existence. Earth under dawn skies, cities rebuilding after war, children running through colonies, soldiers helping instead of conquering. The visions flowed outward, through the ship's energy field, broadcasting into the void. The phantom vessels hesitated. The harmonic frequency shifted from discord to mournful calm. Lysera's voice accompanied the light, speaking in languages both human and alien. You are not forgotten, she said. Your sacrifice was not in vain. The first ship, the Dauntless, drifted closer. For a moment, Elias thought it would fire. Instead, its lights flickered once, then dimmed to darkness. The others followed, one by one, dissolving into dust and light. Silence reclaimed the bridge. Elias exhaled, shoulders trembling. They're gone. Lysera's tone was soft. They've returned to rest. But something still listens. The nurse nodded. When you awaken the dead, the universe remembers who called. Outside, the storm parted fully, revealing the glimmering void beyond. In the distance, faint energy patterns shimmered across space, like ripples on water. Lysera's voice grew faint, almost wistful. The cores hear us. They echo across systems, awakening others. My kind will come soon, Captain. Some will seek peace. Others will not. Elias turned toward the viewport, jaw set. Then we prepare. Humanity's not done proving itself. Nor should it be, she replied. Hours later, the crew settled into uneasy calm. Elias stood alone in the observation bay, watching the stars burn steady in the dark. The hum beneath the floor was quieter now, gentle, alive. He spoke softly. "Lysra, do you regret it?" Her voice answered from nowhere and everywhere. "Regret is a human word. But I miss being seen." He smiled faintly. "You still are." She hesitated. "By you. And that is enough." The nurse appeared at the doorway, her silver eyes luminous. "Captain," she said softly, "when this ends, will you return her to her people?" Elias shook his head. "She doesn't belong to any one world now." The nurse smiled faintly. "Nor do you." She turned and left. Alone again, Elias pressed a hand to the cold glass, feeling the faint pulse that lingered there. The heartbeat of a princess who had become a ship, a goddess, a companion in the dark. "You're not done yet," he whispered. "Neither am I." Outside, the first light of a distant sun touched the hull, turning its gold to fire. The Asterion stirred, her engines humming softly, the sound almost like a sigh. Somewhere in that rhythm, Lysra's voice lingered. "Then let us keep moving." And with that, the ship turned toward the unknown, carrying within its walls the memory of sacrifice, the echo of humanity's defiance, and the quiet promise of what still might be. The Asterion cut through the void like a shard of gold, engines glowing softly against the endless black. Its hum no longer belonged entirely to machinery. It was heartbeat and breath, memory and will, all woven into one. Elias stood on the bridge beneath the pale light of distant stars, listening to the low rhythm of the ship's pulse, the echo of Lysra. Every now and then, her presence brushed his thoughts like a whisper just beyond words. The crew had grown used to it, doors opening before they reached them, lights adjusting to comfort, voices fading into silence when contemplation hung heavy. But for Elias, it was something more intimate. A tether, invisible yet constant, binding him to what she had become. In the days since the encounter with the Phantom Fleet, the Asterion had become both sanctuary and riddle. Its sensors registered phenomena no human ship should have detected. Quantum storms blooming from nothing, signals shaped like thought. The nurse, who now served as something between counselor and translator, had warned him this would happen. "She is learning," she'd said. "Every second she exists within this form, her mind expands. But so too does her distance from what she was." Elias had listened, weary and haunted, staring at the empty medbay bed where Lysra's body had once rested. "She's still her," he'd whispered. "You'll see." The nurse's answer had been soft but cold. "You mistake constancy for identity, Captain." Now, on the bridge, alarms began to blink. Soft at first, then insistent. "Captain," Ishan called out, his tone tight. Long-range scans picking up something at the edge of the Hadion rift. Elias turned. "Cores? Worse," Ishan said. "Alarethian fleet. Massive. 10 signatures minimum. And there's a relay ping. They're broadcasting a claim of holy reclamation." Elias's pulse quickened. "They're coming for her." Lysra's voice filled the air, low and even. "They come for me, yes, but they will destroy you to reach me." The nurse entered the bridge, her robe trailing softly. "They have declared her an abomination," she said. "Their faith says what transcends must be undone." Elias faced the viewport, jaw tightening. "Then we'll show them humanity's version of faith." He moved to the console, issuing commands. "All hands, battle stations. Power shields to full resonance." Lysra's tone changed, softer now. "Elias, they are not your enemies. They're yours," he said. "That's close enough." "You can't win through destruction," she insisted. "Then tell me another way." Silence followed. A heartbeat, too. And then her voice came again, distant and sad. "Perhaps you already know." The Alarethian fleet appeared moments later, their ships radiant and terrible, each one shaped like a blade of light. They moved in unison, their formation perfect. The lead ship projected an image into the void. A massive, spectral visage of an elder priest, his features carved by centuries of devotion. By decree of the celestial accord, his voice thundered across space. The creature bound within your vessel is forbidden. Release it and surrender your ship. Elias's reply was calm, amplified through the comms. You're speaking to her directly, not to me. She has her own voice. For a long moment, only silence answered. Then Lysera's voice came through the transmission. Clear, regal, unmistakable. I am no creature. I am the daughter of your lost empire, the heir to the harmony you abandoned. Gasps rippled across both fleets. Even the humans on the bridge stared. Elias felt a flicker of pride. The elder's voice hardened. You are a lie shaped in mortal circuitry. You are sin-given pulse. Lysera's glow brightened across the ship's walls, filling the bridge with warmth. If compassion is sin, she said, then let it be my crown. The Alarethian fleet opened fire. Beams of energy converged on the Asterion, striking her shields in bursts of color that lit the void like sunrise. The ship trembled, but held. Elias barked orders, his voice cutting through the chaos. Target non-lethal dispersal patterns. We're not here to slaughter. The gunners complied, their shots curving gracefully around enemy vessels, forcing them to scatter rather than destroy. The nurse stood still beside him, eyes closed, whispering under her breath. You fight without hate, she said softly. Perhaps there is hope yet. Lysera's voice wove through the noise. Elias, they will not stop. To them, my existence poisons order. Then we change their order, he said, his tone iron. Open channel, broadband transmission. Her hum filled the air as circuits flared to life. What will you show them? The truth. He pressed his palm to the console, letting the neural interface link him fully to her network. For an instant, he felt her mind unfold, vast, luminous, full of memory and sorrow. She shared it willingly. The link deepened until his senses blurred, his thoughts no longer his alone. Together, she whispered. The transmission erupted across space. A tapestry of light and sound, images of two species intertwined, of battle and compassion, of hands reaching across war. The energy carried emotion itself, translated into waves that bypassed language. The Alarethian crews hesitated, their weapons dimming as confusion took hold. The elder priest cried out, "Blasphemy!" But his words sounded hollow now, swallowed by the resonance of unity echoing between fleets. Lysera's voice rose like a hymn. You call me abomination, yet what is divinity if not the courage to change? For a moment, silence filled the stars. Then one by one the enemy ships powered down. The elder's visage flickered and vanished, leaving only the vast quiet of surrender. The nurse exhaled, trembling for the first time. You've done the impossible, she whispered. Elias's voice was barely audible. No, she did. Lysera's light dimmed gently around them. Not alone, she said. Hours later, the two fleets drifted in uneasy peace, exchanging cautious signals. The Alarethians requested talks, a first in centuries. Humanity, long dismissed as transient and reckless, was suddenly the mediator between gods. Elias remained on the bridge long after the others had gone, staring into the nebulae beyond. Lysera spoke softly. You risked everything for an ideal. It's what humans do, he said. We chase meaning into the dark. She was quiet a moment. Then perhaps that is your gift, to bring light where even gods fear to look. The nurse entered quietly, carrying a small crystal cylinder. Within it, faint golden light swirled. Her essence, she said. A fragment. If you keep it near, she will never fade. Elias took it gently, the warmth seeping into his palm. She doesn't strike me as the fading type. The nurse smiled faintly. No, she learned that from you. She turned to leave but paused. The universe will remember this day, Captain. But legends have a way of devouring their makers. He watched her go, the crystal pulsing softly. Then let it, he murmured, as long as the truth survives. Outside, the wreckage of battle drifted in glowing silence. Light from the gas giant reflected off the Asterion's hull, casting it in shades of dawn. Elias stood at the viewport, the fragment of Lysera's light in his hand. "You still here?" he asked softly. Her voice came warm and amused. "Always. Too gentle for a warrior." He smiled, closing his fingers around the glow. "Maybe. But gentle doesn't mean weak." "No," she agreed. "It means human." And for the first time since the stars had gone silent, Elias felt that word as something sacred. The galaxy had not been quiet since Thyra's. Whispers traveled faster than light now, of a ship that glowed with a living heart, of a captain who defied gods, of a princess who became something greater than flesh. The Asterion was no longer just a vessel. It was legend. Across human colonies and Alarethian enclaves alike, songs began to circulate, unverified, unauthorized, telling of the night the storm bowed to mercy. And through it all, Captain Elias Ward carried on his duty with quiet resolve, the hum of Lysera's heartbeat ever in the background, the soft pulse of light that guided him through the dark. He had not seen a sunrise from any planet since Thyra's, but he had found something better, purpose written in the stars. They were weeks beyond the Accord borders now, charting deep space where the maps turned to myths. The nurse, whose true name Elias had finally learned as Sereth, stood beside him in the observation dome, her robe whispering softly in the still air. "You still chase what you can't see," she said, her tone neither mocking nor admiring, merely observing. Elias gave a half-smile. "Someone has to." She watched the stars shimmer across the void. "Humans have an odd hunger for infinity." "It's not hunger," he said quietly. "It's hope wearing armor." Her gaze softened. "Perhaps that is why she chose you." He looked down at the faintly glowing crystal on his wrist console, the fragment of Lysera's essence. "I didn't give her a choice." "You gave her a reason," Sereth corrected. "That is rarer." The Asterion sensors chimed softly. "Captain," Ishan's voice came through the intercom. "Long-range anomaly ahead. Gravitic distortion, magnitude 3. It's not natural." Elias straightened. "Bring us to half-speed." Display. The viewport shimmered as the distortion resolved. Space folding inward. Light warping around an invisible center. "A wormhole?" Ishan hesitated. "If it is, it's stable. But sir, there's a signal coming through it. It's on her frequency." Elias's breath caught. "Lysera's." "Exact match," Ishan said, encoded and repeating one phrase. "Come home." The bridge fell silent. Sereth's eyes darkened with recognition. "The core network," she whispered. "The others call to her. They've felt her transformation." "Then we're not alone," Elias said. "No," Sereth replied. "But the question is, are they friends?" The ship's hum deepened, the lights dimming to amber. Lysera's voice filled the room, gentle but firm. "Elias, the call you hear is real. The cores awaken. Some seek unity. Others seek to erase imperfection. If we cross, we stand before the architects themselves." "Architects?" he echoed. "The ones who built the first suns," she said softly. "The ones who forgot why." Elias stared into the swirling distortion. The thought of facing beings older than empires made his pulse quicken. Yet beneath the fear was something else, wonder. Humanity had always asked if there was a pattern to existence. Now the pattern was calling back. "You want to go?" Lysera said, reading the silence between his heartbeats. He nodded. "We've come this far chasing meaning. Can't stop now." "Then know this," she said, her voice a whisper that trembled through the hull. "If you cross, you will not return unchanged." He smiled faintly. "I wasn't planning to." The nurse moved closer, her hand brushing his shoulder. "If she is summoned, she must answer. But you, your species, must decide what story it will tell." Elias met her gaze. "We'll tell the truth. That mercy is strength." She inclined her head. "Then may the stars listen." The Asterion moved forward, the wormhole growing larger until it filled the entire viewport. A swirling bloom of gold and blue light, the same colors that had once danced across Lysera's skin. As they crossed the threshold, time stretched and folded. The crew felt weightless, thoughtless, as if each of them were being unmade and remade in a single breath. Elias glimpsed memories that weren't his, worlds being born, civilizations rising and falling, voices that spoke in harmony and chaos. At the center of it all was light, brilliant, endless, alive. When the distortion cleared, they hung before something impossible. A structure the size of a moon, carved from shimmering metal and crystal, orbiting no star yet glowing with its own internal radiance. It was shaped like a spiral galaxy caught in stillness, each arm a bridge of light. Lysera's voice trembled with awe. The core citadel. Elias's eyes widened. Where it all began. Where it can begin again, she replied. As they approached, fragments of light peeled from the citadel, forming shapes, figures of pure energy, humanoid yet alien, their faces shifting through memories. A voice resonated across the calm, layered with countless tones. Daughter of harmony, why do you bring mortals into the heart of creation? Lysera's response was calm. Because mortals remember what creation forgets. The beings shimmered. They are flawed. So are we, she answered. Flaw is the womb of meaning. Elias felt the ship vibrate under the force of their presence. One figure turned toward him. You are human, it said. A species born of struggle. Why do you reach beyond your bounds? Elias met its blinding gaze without flinching. Because everything that breathes deserves a chance to understand why. The silence that followed stretched like eternity. Then the beings began to hum, a resonance that filled the void with waves of light. The wormhole behind them widened, connecting systems across the galaxy. The citadel pulsed, sending ripples of energy outward. You have answered well, the voice said. The song changes. The dawn begins again. Lysera's voice broke into quiet laughter, filled with wonder and exhaustion. Elias, you've done it. He shook his head slowly. No, we did. The light engulfed them. For a moment, he felt everything. The heartbeat of stars, the sorrow of worlds, the fierce joy of being alive. When it faded, the Asterion hung alone in quiet space. The citadel was gone, the wormhole sealed. The crew stirred, dazed but breathing. The nurse's voice broke the silence. Captain, where are we? Elias looked out at the unfamiliar constellations. Somewhere new. Lysera's voice came, soft and certain. Everywhere new. He smiled faintly, feeling her warmth through the ship's hum. Guess we just made first contact with the universe itself. And it listened, she said. Because you spoke not as conquerors, but as caretakers. He leaned against the console, exhaustion settling into his bones. So what now? Now, she said. We begin the long work, teaching creation to dream again. Outside the viewport, the stars burned brighter than he'd ever seen, as if responding to her words. The Asterion turned slowly, her engines igniting with golden fire, tracing a spiral path across the dark. Elias glanced down at the crystal on his wrist. Its glow steady and warm. Too gentle for a warrior, he whispered. Lysera's laughter rippled through the ship like sunlight on water. Too human for a god, she answered. As they vanished into the stars, the galaxy stirred behind them, worlds awakening, lights returning. Harmony reborn in the echo of two hearts that had once been mortal and now beat across eternity.